Patrick Johnston of the Province and Postmedia. He covers the Vancouver Canucks, but he covers last week he was at the National Soccer Center on the Whitecaps, and I understand he's writing Lions today. But I'll just say this. Man, exciting time for the British Columbia sports fan, right? The Whitecaps are amazing. The Lions are playing their best football of the year. The Canucks have started. And no matter where your baseball allegiance lies, you probably got a stake in the ALCS, right? These are pretty heady times for sports fans in our market.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't lose. I don't really have a stake. I mean, when I grew up, obviously I'm a Joe Carter kid, and so watching the Blue Jays going up, and then of course I had my A's and lost my A's. So I'm just, and the Mariners,
welcome back,
you
Patrick.
always got to see the
back.
Mariners, so anyway, it's been exciting, and but you're not wrong locally, and so I don't know. I'm not
Seahawks leading the division.
I'm a 49ers guy, but anyway,
yeah.
But anyway,
you get more disparate NFL fandom, for sure.
Yeah. No, but I was saying that, the whole point of the Lions thing. I mean, I'm looking at, there's some stars in this town getting it done. Thomas Muller, Nathan Rourke, and maybe a guy that needs a little bit more,
Oh, you're going there, huh?
Wow.
There are some stars in this town getting it done.
More. I literally wrote it. I mean, listen, sitting there Saturday night, right? I'm getting ready for the Canucks game. I got the Whitecaps game on. We see the insanity. Blake, are you allowed to comment on this? The insanity of the goal that wasn't a goal.
Yeah.
And then, which could have completely shattered. I mean, listen, the Whitecaps have been fabulous, but a moment like that could completely shatter your ability to cope. And they did. And then their superstar said, I'm going to create
I got this.
I'm going to create a scoring chance. And then we flip over and we watch the Canucks. I don't know what they did against Edmonton, and it was so stark. I got to write a story first about the Whitecaps and their remarkable triumph, which drew in a lot of people because it was notable for a lot of reasons, and then I got to write about the contrast with the Canucks.
A third period crying out for a star player to do the same thing in a one-goal game, right, Patrick?
And you know what? It's twofold to some degree. I'm not going to lay blame at Quinn Hughes' feet. He's been okay, but he hasn't been.
I was talking about the other one.
I know, but I'm saying Quinn can be better too, can't he?
Well, I'm not. I think I've been more tempered in the reaction to sort of these 3-game start that maybe others have been. I'm just saying, listen, this is a 4th place team. This is what you guys asked me last week. What is this team going to be? And I said it's a 4th place team. And they were playing a team in Edmonton and a team in St. Louis that have serious ambitions this season. And we know the Canucks would like to get there, but we know they're not. So, to me, it's about, obviously, the Dallas test is massive. And Chicago, look at what Chicago did last night, right? How do they handle Chicago on the back, in their own second night of a back-to-back? It's a challenge for these Canucks to show us where they're at, not so much where they should be, because I think that's the hard thing for us to react and understand. We got used to 2 years ago, there was a lot of chatter, a lot of ambition. Obviously, we remember the Jim Rutherford quote, but even at that point, we said this team should be a very good team contending for the playoffs, and they blew that expectation out of the water. And then, of course, we know what happened last year, which was they started hot, and then they fell apart in the most spectacular fashion.
And it is sports, and sports is crazy and nonsensical sometimes. And I think last night's out of town scoreboard, I think, is a perfect example. You mentioned the Blackhawks lambasting the Blues 8-3. The Sabres double up the Senators 8-4. That is the Sabres who, people were ready to send to the American Hockey League. I mean, you never know what to expect. And the Canucks win tonight. They're 2-2, and it all feels fine again. But, it does feel tenuous. It feels like they're walking the edge of the blade every single night.
Well, and you look at the structure of this road trip. They're playing some tough teams. They go play Washington, right? They play. I mean, I don't know what to think of Nashville this year, but it's they. And then there's the Pittsburgh Penguins. But this is a team that needs to show that it is at least a 4th place team, and that means beating Chicago, and that means pulling off the upset as Chicago did last night.
Right.
So listen, I don't think this is a road trip anyone was expecting to go 4-1 on. 3-2 would be great. Even 2-3 is fine, but you're starting to fall behind the 8 ball at that point. Before the season, when I had a great chat with Jake about, first of all, his stick and sort of the experimenting he's been doing with various lengths and sizes and flexes, he said to me part of the reason why he was thinking about his stick was because he didn't think he was very good at forechecking last year, and forechecking is what he is supposed to be good at. So that there's sort of a statement there that they haven't created enough, they haven't forechecked well enough. I think in limited minutes, actually, that line's been okay. I don't understand Adam Foote. I mean, maybe I do because he's a rookie head coach, but if you're looking to get your best player going, I guess benching him, but like against Edmonton, he played as much as Braden Coots at 5-on-5 in the third period. Like there's been some odd deployments. It's a little bit throwing stuff against the wall. If I were Adam Foote, I wouldn't necessarily be making these changes, but he has said openly he likes what Evander Kane, or he thinks Evander Kane can be a catalyst for multiple players in this lineup.
Patrick, we got a super chat from a fan yesterday who was asking about deployment and looking and saying, most NHL teams ride their top three lines and play the fourth sparingly. Adam has been a little bit more democratic in the ice time. I am starting to get Willie Desjardins vibes there, Patrick, because as we know, Willie loved his plumbers. And do you remember that playoff series in Calgary? We're like, where are the fucking, how is that fourth line playing like almost as much as the Twins in that post?
Well, we remember the story, right? Of what happened there?
Well, I remember they put the kid McMillan in from the interior who had no business being in a play. And
there was that.
He wound up scoring that night, and they blew the big lead. I do remember that.
Yeah, but Willie would just rotate through four lines.
That's right.
Like he didn't actually. Yeah, like that was he literally did. And if I'm not mistaken,
like he didn't leverage his best offensive players on a no-zone face-off and things like that.
I think they were kind of looking around. They're like, "What's going on here?" And they suddenly realized that Willie would just put out who was ever sitting in front of him. And that it was sort of, it was beer league style. Everyone just slid down the bench and they'd go on and they come and they. So what the Sedins and Verbata started doing was they started scooping themselves ahead in the line. At least that's what I've been told.
That is awesome.
But on Foot, ice time deployment, that top line that he's now had to recast, Kane on power play 1, keeping Coots. Then the odd one this week we're trying to wrap our heads around, Peach. You have Pettersson practice with DeBrusk and Besser, and then say in your post-practice scrum, I'm thinking of Kane and Garmin, and not calling Sasson up to participate in that practice while Coots practices and goes back. I
might have been the last practice for a week too.
Right. Are we? Is his inexperience showing here?
I was fine with him keeping Coots. I thought starting the season with him like I said, I thought there was a scenario where you could string him along. Part of me wonders that the Blueger injuries kind of forced their hand on this, that in the end they weren't planning to play him in the first 3 games and they kind of sat back and okay, what are we going to do here? Yeah. There's a bit of roster management they've had to deal with. I don't quite understand why they didn't make a retroactive move with Blueger, because he was hurt before the season started, so you're well into it, and you could have easily had Sasson up. It's that part was a bit odd. If you're going to make the move, have all the guys here. So yeah, listen, it's a feeling its way out process. It was never going. You don't like. He's just not a guy. Like, he's new at this. He has people around him, so you're sort of like, okay, hopefully he gets to be, hey, Adam, I wouldn't necessarily done that way. Well, maybe do it this way. What do you think about that? And by reputation, Rick Tocchet certainly talked to us about how, prepared Foot would come in with sort of, they'd be, here's what we need. I need from you. What can you bring in? And Adam prepared great practice plans, and they had pretty good practice last year. And I would say their practices in terms of operation have been very snappy and have been, I think, quite interesting to watch. But yeah, like, there are all these bits and pieces about running a bench and running a team that if you don't have a lot of practice at, you might it might slip by you. So yeah, we'll see. Listen, if it happens again that you run a practice and then you call the guy up, even though it would have made sense to have him maybe in, if that keeps happening, yeah, there's something to talk about. If it keeps happening as it did with Willie Desjardins and guys realizing what he was doing with the bench, then there's a concern. But if he's able to move past this, I'm not, like I said, I'm not waving flags, jumping up and down based off of last weekend. But I do have things now to watch for to see how things evolve.
Stars are perfect, 3-0. They score 5 goals per game. Thatcher Demko officially jumps onto the U.S. preliminary roster for the Olympics along with Brock Besser before the game. The goaltending's got to be perfect, near perfect, to have a chance versus Dallas, presumably.
Oh yeah, I mean that is where this team is at. They need good goaltending. They need to be pretty reasonable defensively. Not a total 5-alarm fire. And I don't think they've been a 5-alarm fire, but they've been under pressure because they've been struggling on their breakouts and they've been struggling to maintain possession. They've had good shifts here and there. But the overall game is lacking, and you're playing against a team like Dallas that plays you hard and plays fast. And obviously, Glenn Gulletson is going to have different priorities than Pete DeBoer. But at the end of the day, the best players remain the same best players as last year. And I've been a huge fan of this roster for a long time, and I like how they play, and I like the way they go. It's another huge test. It's not that different in my mind from the test that Edmonton presented last Saturday, and in a certain level, the test that St. Louis presented in terms of sort of grinding hockey smarts, the way that those teams seem to play.
Playoff savvy team.
Yeah,
that knows,
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, really like Casey DeSmith, like what he did here. Think he's one of the great backup goalies in the NHL. Do you know he's the best goaltender off the... I heard Steve Alcat talking about this late last year.
Yeah.
Casey DeSmith is the best goaltender off the rush in the NHL for the last few years. Not that the Vancouver Canucks generate rush chances, Patrick, as you well know. 8 goals through 3 games. Patrick, is this going to be a team that's overly reliant on goaltending all season?
The Canucks?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've talked so much about how much Pettersson needs to perform, but I mean, I've said this before. Like, this team, if they do not get great goaltending, if they only get sort of average goaltending from Thatcher Demko, that's just not going to be enough. They need a top performer from the back out. It is absolutely going to be a goaltending story, no matter what else happens. If the goalies are playing well, they will have a chance. I mean, look at last Saturday. They had a chance in a game they had no business being in because Thatcher Demko was playing very, very well. And this is what, when I talked to the people around him going into the season, this was everyone was vowing. This is a guy, remember, they would say, remember, he was a Vezina finalist, right? Like this guy was in the conversation with Connor Hellebuck. So that's exactly, and he feels he's back to that. And if that carries on and he's able to stay healthy, and obviously they don't overwork him, and Kevin Lankinen comes in and is Kevin Lankinen, which is a solid, competent goalie. Now he's not going to be Thatcher Demko, and perhaps we do slip back into what I'm talking about with that sort of getting average goaltending. I mean, the pressure is in a certain level is going to be on Lankinen because he's a solid though unspectacular goalie. And they will need him to perform in a way that is perhaps more than he is capable of. But the real story remains Thatcher Demko, who you're getting 55 starts from, needs to be an outstanding goalie in every single one of those 55 starts.
Okay. Last question, if you're done with the Canucks questions for him, since he's...
Oh, you want to go to the...
Well, just that you're covering the Lions today. Like... Are the Lions getting this done? Like, is Nathan Rourke going to win in the next couple of games? See, have a host the West semi, win an MOP? Like, are you started? Do you feel like the market is starting to get a little bit excited here for what the Lions could achieve?
Well, it's funny. Like, I will be honest. I obviously with the Canucks season getting started and all the buzz around Thomas Muller, I sort of let my attention lapse on the Lions. And when I'd last been paying attention, it was summertime, and they weren't playing very well. And then I sit back and I talk to a few people, and they're like, wait, hold on. And you start looking, okay, they fixed this, they're doing a bit better. You just go look at where they are in the standings and how they got there. And this is a team with a fabulous, fantastic offense led by the league's best quarterback. And that gets you a long, long way. If we come back to the question of simple, competent defense, right? That's all the Lions need, because they will blow you out of the water. And that is to me a fantastic story. And people love seeing touchdowns, and the Lions keep putting down touchdowns. People are going to start taking notice. And obviously it is a long season. It's probably too long. I get why it is structured the way it is, but in terms of a pure playing product, it's probably too long, especially when you get most of the teams in the playoffs, right? But here we are. We're coming down to crunch time, and it's getting exciting, and they're peaking at just the right time. So
Something to
they're
watch.
winning at home. They're winning at home. They're 495 points, leads the CFL.
You talk about Nathan Rourke. Something to watch in this game, though. If Keon Hatcher goes off, he all of a sudden has G-Roy's record possible in the final
Season.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
In the
Season record for receiving yards is what you're talking about.
Yeah, he needs to go off here.
Somebody's working sidelines tomorrow.
But if he
Peach.
goes off, he all of a sudden has that in his sights, which is kind of crazy. It wasn't. I don't think that was Gretzky's 220 odd points,
No.
but it was it's a pretty gaudy record.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, listen, the quarterback is nowhere without his receivers, right? Like that, he can throw the ball he wants. They still have to catch the ball. So that is a statement about guys being able to get downfield and do their job and get open and catch and run the ball and, let's go. So, it's an exciting time, and it's an exciting time for a Vancouver sports fan, at least for two of the three teams.
You enjoy all of it. All of it. Just
will.
let it wash over you. Just bathe in it.
Guys.
We don't know how long it will be until it's back. Thank you, Peach.
Okay. All right. Take care, guys.